Hello, everyone. We're just doing a little impromptu get-together with the Unfuckers tonight because the fuckery is so big and so deep and so tall this week. I just thought maybe we could all hang out a little bit and, I don't know, a little mutual support for everyone, a little like commiseration between all of us who are like, what the fuck is going on this time? It's been like, wow, crazy fucking week. And one of the things so in our Unfuckers group, I've asked at least 2 days in a row, or at least I think Monday and then again today, saying, okay, like, so how is everyone doing? Are you guys okay? Like, how's everyone feeling? Because I've had so much weird shit. And I get people sending me messages left, right, and center like, you wouldn't believe the shit that I've got going on right now. It's just fucking wild. And I wanted to just kind of see how everyone else is standing at the moment. I'm seeing some stuff that happened actually Sunday that kind of wigged me out Monday morning. Anne knows all about it because I was ranting to her about it all morning on Monday. When you kind of go to bed, we did the show Sunday night, and there was certain things that were all set up. And I woke up Sunday morning, and it's kind of like everything had changed. Everything had changed. I was setting up the show to have Cliff High on Sunday. And on Saturday, he'd sent me a message saying, oh, I can't do it this Sunday, but how about next Sunday? And I'm like, yeah, sure, next Sunday's great, awesome. So that would be the 25th. Awesome, cool, this is the times, blah, blah, blah. And then I woke up Monday morning to an email from him saying, no, I can't possibly do it Sunday. I'm far too busy. My schedule is really screwed up because I'm still moving, so we'll have to schedule it later on. And I was like, but you suggested that Sunday. It wasn't me. You suggested it. So anyways, okay, not much, that's fine. And then I went to go look at something with the solar stuff. Something came up, and I was looking through the solar stuff. And you guys have seen me do I've put out a couple of the articles now, the stuff about the dip that I've seen in this about X-rays. What the hell is this? And then I go to look at the geomagnetic storm readings, which I just looked at the day before, and on the show on Sunday, before, unfortunately, I was so mad I didn't record it. It was in the pre-show before we went live, before I hit record. But I brought up the TESIS screen, and I was explaining all the TESIS stuff to everyone, and I showed the geomagnetic storm readings for that time, which would have been 10 p.m. Central European time. And everyone was like, yeah, it's green across the board. There's no geomagnetic storms. There's absolutely nothing. I woke up Monday morning, and it showed that we had been in a geomagnetic storm since 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon, my time. And I'm like, no. We saw this. Like, and I was like, call up Anne, you saw, and Brianna. I'm like, you tell me I'm not crazy. They were like, no, it was perfectly green. You showed us the graph. It was green. There was no storms to full-blown geomagnetic storms. I'm like, that's fucking bizarre. So then I look, and someone had sent me another video. I can't remember who it was now. Someone do a report, and in the report they do a solar thing, and they show this coronal hole. And this coronal hole is like 2/3 of the sun is gone. And I went, yeah, no, because I checked that on Saturday, and we had a coronal hole that was about yay big, and that was it. None of this 2/3 of the sun got, what the fuck? So I started backtracking, and I found a suspicious observer's video from the day before, so the 17th, and it was one of his just quick reports where he doesn't actually talk, he just kind of shows all the images of the various things going by of what to look at, like the geomagnetic storms and the weathers and stuff. And he shows a picture of the sun with just this little coronal hole in it. And I'm like, okay, wait. So he saw it, I saw it. How is it now when we backtrack all the records, they're showing that there's this hole that's like this fucking big in all the official records that started the Tuesday before. So by this point, I was just like, okay, we got something going on here. We have something seriously is going on. Something is looped. Something has jumped. Something has, what the fuck just happened? So I put up that little message to everyone in the UnFuckIt group saying, so how's everybody doing? And are you noticing anything unusual? And I got 2 messages back right away. One from a buddy of mine in South Africa who does graphics design. And he goes, okay, you want something real weird? He says, I was working on a graphic for my website. So it was my work, my graphics, my website. I went to bed Sunday night knowing where I left it. I wake up Monday morning and there's parts of it that have changed. And he went, what the fuck? So he kind of changed it back, and then he did a little more work on it during the day, saved it all, went to bed Tuesday morning, woke up, and it was back to the picture that was on Sunday. And he's just like, okay, this is like, you know, kind of like, I'm alone in the house, it's just me. And my graphics fucking changed overnight, and I know I didn't fucking change them. And I got a message from someone else saying that they'd gone through something very, very similar where all of a sudden stuff had just all of a sudden fucking changed. And they were like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. So right there, right just from that one point, has anyone else noticed any, like since this weekend, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, any fucking anomalies like this? Because again, we have cyclones coming up that I kind of keep a weather eye out for weird weather patterns. And we've got the one I just sent you, Ben. There's a massive cyclone supposed to hit Queensland in Australia. And I'm like,
but see,
I didn't see that coming.
No, but all of that depends on, like, because you sent that, right? Now that's on a thing called Higgins Storm Chasers, which is like a private weather guys. They're the guys that told us about all the last massive floods while the government couldn't, okay? So, but then you've got the debate between me and Carl that you started, because I trust Higgins, and he's sending me BOM, which is the New South Wales government website, or the federal government's website. And of course, they show nothing. But then when you look at the BOM website, this is where I see all these fan anomalies start happening, right? These things that happen on the screen. I'll actually see if I can find one, because I took a screenshot on my camera, and I'll hold it up if it's in here somewhere. But like, no one mentions these anomalies. You know, though the weather's going on, but it's like, what are these circle band cloud formations that are happening, and they look like radars, not anything else? So it gets quite interesting because no one brings them up.
Yep.
You know, not even the actual good weather people sit there and say, so what's this weird anomaly that has been occurring, you know?
Well, the weird anomalies that are occurring fucking everywhere right now. Like, we're seeing bizarre cloud anomalies all over the place.
There's that side of it, but what I'm talking about is when things are specifically picked up on, you know, satellite and stuff like that, it becomes quite a hardcore kind of situation, really, because if there are indications of, let's say, HARP or something along those sort of lines, well, no. I mean, they're more than chem bombs. It's not just like straight clouds. We're talking about an actual...
the ripples, like when you see those.
No. What we get here is literally, how to describe it? It's like a circle with a center point, and you actually just see all these straight lines that are like, tick, 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 and they pulse out from the center, but they create a perfect circle. And the last few massive cyclones we had and rainfalls, these were all occurring. Like there was one over Brisbane, there was one over North Queensland, and there was one over Western Australia. And this is where all the stuff was going down. But, you know, these are anomalies that everyone can see, but no one talks about.
Yeah.
Or no one brings up, you know, or we do, but we can't get answers, and then you're labelled
a conspiracy theorist. Clouds
not a very
naturally
good
form like radar. Don't you know that? Seriously, Ben.
Yeah.
Back to school.
Yeah, the only photo I've got, unfortunately, is not a very good one. But yeah, they're very strange anomalies. You know, it's like straight clouds. See, those I would sit there and go, well, that's probably a chemtrail, because clouds don't generally just sit in straight lines.
Yeah. Well, did you see, someone posted in Unfuckers, a cloud, and it was a picture taken from an air, so we see lots of bizarre cloud formations that are taken from the ground looking up. This was a picture taken out of an airplane window of a perfectly square cloud. Like, I'm talking, it like a perfect, you could have put, like, an architect would have been proud of the right angle that was in this cloud. And you could see that this cloud was like this, and it was like straight lines. Like, it was like someone had taken, and yet no one sees these, apparently.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's that sort of things throughout history. I mean, the thing that comes to mind is still the fourth pyramid in my head. It's still the biggest sort of thing that I've only ever really heard maybe 2 or 3 people talk about. So, you know, you miss little bits and pieces out of that. It's like I've just found, and I think I posted it to you and Randy, and I've just sent it off to David, but someone just, Cliff, not Cliff High, he's like, oh, I just seen this dude rescind his property title back to the UN.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't had a chance to read
PDF
that.
document. Yeah, I know it's quite long, but it's very interesting in what they go into and how it's established and where the titles come from and what they mean and yada, yada, yada. But it's just confirmation of all the stuff we've been talking about, but it shows the process in which the governments have sort of done it. But yeah, it's all very interesting at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting. Hold on, someone is, there we go. Pardon me.
Boy, yeah, I wanted to say something real quick so I get out. It stuck in my brain too. At the time, my memory at the time was like typing in that comment about the Borg cloud, but that struck me. Yeah, I've seen some that above a perfect square, like you just mentioned, just completely like a cloud that looks like a perfect square. I mean, yeah, talk about some sky art, so to speak. Sky Turtles painting.
Yeah, whoever sprayed that cloud should get an award by, like, I don't know, like I say, the Engineering and Architectural Society, the Geometry Society for, like, perfect straight lines. So, yeah, I mean, there's been some weird shit happen. On the weekend, I put out a news article Monday morning, conspicuous news article. I couldn't be bothered recording something because I was just like, so I just typed it all in. A lot of shit happened this weekend, politically, financially. Major shit. So we have the Russian elections, and Putin won by a landslide. I mean, literally, he got 75% of the vote. The next contender had 11%. That's how big he won. And they had like over 56% turnout at the voter polls. And I joked and said, fucking Western countries haven't been able to manage anything more than 25% of the voter polls for like decades. So you have that. And there's a lot of people who want to say this, that, and the other about Russia and Putin and all the rest of it. And I get it. We all know that they're all playing a role and they're all playing a fucking game. But on the surface of politics as it is right now, if anyone but Putin had been voted in, it would have been serious catastrophe for the rest of the world. Because he's pretty much at this point, at least on the surface, politically, he's the guy who's kind of holding a lot of shit in check. At the same time on Sunday, the Central Bank of China just voted in a new director. new CEO of the Central Bank of China. On Sunday, or early Monday morning, I think it was Sunday, Mark Carney, who is the CEO of the Bank of England, and he's one of the major talking heads. When this guy opens his mouth and says shit about finances, this is who you know to listen to, because this is who's going to tell you what's going on in the world. He is one of the major talking heads. Mark Carney, with a group of ministers of various world governments and central bankers, put a presentation together for the G20, because there's a big G20 meeting this week, stating that cryptocurrencies should not be regulated. So that's like major. Like my whole ears just went, what? Okay, now this is it. This is go time. Because what Mark Carney basically said to the world was, we have our assets in place. We have our holdings ready to go, as in we bought in. Let the cryptocurrencies go. Let them go. Let the prices go up again, because we have our stake already claimed in them. So I'm willing to bet fucking my last fucking dollar that all these central banks, all these government spokespeople, etc., this is why they have been deliberately keeping Bitcoin down with bullshit news that we know is bullshit news. Because they come out and the news comes out and says, South Korea is going to close down cryptocurrencies, trading, etc., and Bitcoin goes like this on the news. And then South Korea comes out a day later and goes, yeah, no, we're not. What are you talking about? You're on crack. And then a week later, it's like, oh, the Indian government has stepped in and they've stopped all crypto exchanges and they're doing this and this. And Bitcoin goes, shoot. And India comes back a day later and goes, yeah, no, we're not. We really love cryptos and we're going to move forward with them. And then it's Japan. We've watched them do this for a couple of months now. And of course, there was the guy who, with Mt. Gox, the Mt. Gox trustee, who got caught dumping massive quantities of Bitcoin into the open market to drive the price lower. And there's no other way of calling it that. I mean, there's no logic to what he did, except that someone told him when to drop those massive quantities into the market, because it would drive the price down. And I said back in December, they are buying in. All these central banks, all these countries are buying into the cryptocurrencies now, so they have to force and keep the prices low. And now and yes, exactly, Jenny, gold prices have also dropped like a stone. This is all part of the same shit, okay? Yep, Trump issued an executive order Monday morning banning Americans from buying the Venezuelan cryptocurrency. And I literally was just like, okay, first of all, it took him a week longer than I thought it would, because just 8 days before that is when Maduro announced that they had made $5 billion off the sale of their cryptocurrency in 4 weeks. They're the world's first fully asset-backed, nationally recognized cryptocurrency. So we have a shitload of stuff happening. China on Sunday also announced that they are moving forward with cryptocurrencies. So did South Korea. We have a whole pile of very interesting shit play out. And so again, when we look at the fucking weekend that we had, it was fucking crazy. And now all of a sudden it's like, boom, here. There's a whole pile of shit all rolling out Monday morning. So I don't know. But it was intensely fucking weird. Certain things we expected, we knew the Russian elections were coming up. Yeah, okay. China, the new central bank head, okay, I didn't know that was coming. Mark Carney making this announcement, huge fucking news. It came out of left field.
Danny, are you sure it's Mark Carney? Because I've always heard it Art Carney.
No, Mark. It's always been Mark Carney, huh? He was also the president of the Central Bank of Canada for a while.
Yeah.
That fucking asshole.
Yeah, I know that, but yeah.
So, yeah, weirdness fucking abounds. Now, that's on the more, if you will, you just found there's a second cyclone predicted on the opposite side of Australia, Ben? Really? So you've got one coming in here, and another one. God only knows. I don't even know. I don't think these guys know. So I want to talk about the energetic, though. Because we have watched, and Ann and I have been talking every day for almost a week, keeping track of the things that are coming in. And I've got very, very non-awake people putting out posts on either Facebook or sending messages to other friends saying things like, I don't know what's going on. Feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm seeing shit. I'm feeling all bizarre. I'm woozy. I feel like I'm not myself. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm hearing shit. I'm experiencing all this stuff. And kids, especially our little ones, are really, really showing a lot of signs that like there's a lot of stuff heavily going on. Although, Anne, here's a new one for you. For the last 2 days, Kale keeps talking about how he's going to turn our moon into another sun.
That's not even what I heard. Kale and I had a talk when we were going to the store the other day. It was very interesting. His whole thing was he was older, he was going to become...
Can I help?
He was going to become the most famous scientist, so he could go back to build a time machine, go back in time and break the fourth wall. And he's going to build a TARDIS, go forwards in time to the end of the universe, to the end of Earth. That's a conversation we had.
These are the kind of conversations we've been having in our house with my 8-year-old just recently. Yeah. So besides turning the moon into another sun, which he's been talking about nonstop for 2 days.
We've been talking about the same stuff.
Are you really?
Not so much the moon, but yeah. So I just want to see if I can show everyone something while the internet isn't coming up. But
oh, as soon as you moved, the internet fucked up, dude.
Yeah, of course it did. I don't know if you can see this.
I see your haze.
Holy crap.
Did you see the mountains and stuff?
Yeah, we can see the haze around the mountains at the bottom of the mountains there.
That's all the mist clearing, and now the sun's coming out in the blue sky. So it's like we actually have real clouds that form here. So it gets a bit hard to kind of judge because everything else seems to be acting normal here. But like I say, we have 3 waterfalls and umpteenth amounts of rain per year, and you know, energetically, it's probably one of the best places on the planet.
Nicely buffered?
Kind of thing, yeah. Like it's very natural, you know, as far as you can tell.
Yeah, it's very natural. And like I said, nature gives that buffer. Yeah, I don't know. I've been offside several times. Yes, I wasn't so bad until yesterday evening, late afternoon, and literally everything started going sideways where you stand up and then you're going like this. And I was like, Nick was laughing his fucking ass off at me because at one point I'm talking to him holding his shoulder. And he was like, are you, like, is this for emphasis? And I'm like, no, I'm falling. Just hold on to me because I'm going to go sideways. And that went on until last night, about 9 o'clock at night. Like, I literally sat in a chair on the couch and was just like, I ain't getting up because if I get up, I'm going to fall down.
It's kind of...
I almost fell on her once. I went to give her a hug and I literally was like, catch me.
That's funny. I've been doing the same thing, but I thought it was just because I was getting too stoned.
No. That's like, funnily enough, because that's what I said yesterday. It felt like I was tipsy.
Constantly, it's like...
Yeah, it felt like I was tipsy. And I was like, and I've had those moments all day today as well, like not continuous like I did last night, but I had those moments where it comes over and it's almost like that slightly tipsy feeling when you're feeling you're just kind of a little bit not quite, maybe as stable as you would like to be.
Maybe that's the benefit of being stoned. All these things are just like, I'm just high.
I'm just high. That's all it is. It's high. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So it's been really interesting. A lot of people. I mean, it was interesting having the conversation in the Unfuckers group, having how many people coming in, and it was interesting because some of the reactions people were like, I'm having a terrible time right now. I feel terrible. I'm really depressed. I'm really anxious. I'm really dizzy, etc. And then you had other people who were like, I'm feeling really up, and I've been in a really, really upbeat, happy place for like the last week solidly, like really, even when I'm falling sideways. And like yesterday at one point I was a mess and my leg was killing me. I was like, I should be just miserable, but I'm really, really happy right now. Maybe I was stoned, Ben. Maybe
I was about to say, you high. See, I've been waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sorry.
The other one. Everyone's waking up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in.
Yeah, well, it kind of does, depends, because, is it 3 o'clock in the morning in the northern hemisphere that everyone's waking up?
No, I'm saying at your nighttime, people in their nighttime.
Yeah.
It seems like regardless of whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Australia, whether they're in North America, people are talking about waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, animals waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and insisting that they have to go out or insisting that they have to get fed or be loved or whatever.
Like I told message Danny, I woke up at 3:33 yesterday morning. I'm like, holy crap, if that's not a sign or something, it was like weird.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, what is that? I mean, no matter like if you get, whether I guess you're just tired enough to sleep or you're really like fucking tired to the point where you can't keep your eyes open. Like I've noticed, like I'm a big time night person, but if you're just sitting like this and you're fucking really tired you weren't aware at the moment when you drifted off mentally.
Yeah.
It's almost like the dreaming. It's like the brainwave is just changing, trying to change on you into this sleeping thing, and you're sitting here like this, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I keep doing it, and no matter how fucking hard I try just to focus and stay aware of what I'm doing, it'll hit me within seconds. I'll be like, oh great, now I got to backtrack on what I was watching, even if it was like a stand-up comedy show. I'll just keep up drifting. I'm like, fuck it, I give up. At some points I just stop.
It's the wave.
Yeah, I just let it go until I snap out of it.
I get what we call driver's narcolepsy, which is the same kind of thing, Star, which basically as soon as my brain...
Don't drive with Ben.
While he's driving.
But it's weird. It doesn't happen like I don't get in the car and then 30 seconds it's like... what I've noticed is it's a heat thing, and it's it's the monotony of driving thing. So as soon as it gets to, I don't know, a certain point, it might be 45 minutes into a drive, and if the sun's warm enough, like literally, I just turn off. I'll just be driving. Someone can be talking to me. I can be talking, and then it's like, and they're like, "Ow, wake up! There's a bridge."
This isn't a new thing with Ben. Don't drive with Ben because he does have driving narcolepsy.
Well, especially late afternoons are bad.
Yeah. Bad. And I'm like that as a passenger. I don't drive. I'm like that as a passenger, though, so I can't really complain. I get into any moving vehicle. It doesn't matter.
That's the weird thing. You put me in the passenger seat, and I can stay awake for a 9-hour drive.
Yeah, because it's funny because like you think about this. It's like if you have to focus, I mean, if this is where you have to, and I'll just put this out there, whether you're high, stoned or not. I mean, if you know you have to focus on what you're doing, if you're in the car, I don't have a vehicle. I never had, which, yeah, probably has screwed some things up for me to a degree. It's like
or not.
Yeah, I've never had to worry about that. I've always been a passenger. It's like I've driven, but it's been so fucking long. It's like since early 2000s, since around 2002, the last time I drove probably. It's like, yeah, it's like when you're driving, it's like, okay, you gotta fucking pay attention to what you're doing, or guess what? Because if someone else isn't watching what they're doing, bam, yeah, you're fucked. Yeah, start signing it away. Yeah, get ready for the open.
And you should see the roads I've got to drive on too, like, and against school buses, it's quite interesting, and tourists, which is even more interesting. So it's like a motocross just to get to work. And we go from like a dirt road that is slowly eroding from the rain we've had. So it's like potholy as, like we're talking like big potholes. And then all the way onto tar sealed road that goes up and over a fucking hillside that is like, a rally track. It's quite interesting.
Well, I've been trying to, for the last week and a half, I've been trying to take a little bit of time every day to just sit quietly and not even so much meditate, but at least just take some time where I go to my room, have a half hour, 45 minutes, and just sit quietly, do some breathing, and see what comes to me, see what's going on. And I was joking with Ann that I just it's like on and off switches where you sit back and you're wide awake, and you're wide awake. So you pick that moment. If you're going to meditate, you pick that moment when you're wide awake because you're not going to fall asleep, and sit back and start doing deep breathing, and gone. And then 2 minutes later, back again. And I can hear it because my kids are they're in the living room, which is right across from my bedroom. So the kids are in there. They're watching a show. They're playing. They're doing something. You're hearing the conversations the whole time, except that it's like gone, back. At one point on Monday, I was giggling at myself because I'd get a half a thought out. Like literally you'd go, oh, and it'd be like, okay, we'll start working on something in my head. If I can't get my mind to calm down, I'll pick one specific topic and then work myself down. One of the ones I'll do musical scales in my head. It's the crazy things you do to calm your head down. I'll do musical scales in my head, and you'll get to do, re, mi, fa, so, and then it's just gone. And then you come back and you're actually coming back down the scale, and you're like, but wait a second, I've missed at least one going the rest of the way up and the other part coming down, so where did that go? It just fucking disappeared. So, I've been in a really, really good place. I've been in a really, really good mood, and just coming to this whole place for myself, I'm just like, I just need to do what makes me happy. I need to do the stuff that is good for me and my family, not worry about a lot of the other stuff, and it's a different mindset. I guess I can say I've had a really, really, really profound change of mindset of just like how Nick put a post in the UnFuckIt group yesterday about basically we are the authors of our own happiness. And that's kind of this whole mindset I'm sitting in right now. And it doesn't mean there aren't days when I'm still frustrated. I still get arguments with an 8-year-old, and as a parent, they drive you a little bit around. Arguments with a 15-year-old still drives you around the bend. But the mindset's different. And I don't know. The energy feels different. I just feel the energy feels really, really different right now.
It's the wave.
The wave. Yeah, well, I don't know.
I like that.
I'm gonna say that.
Hey Earl, I was gonna say real quick that, but she was just talking about, contentment. The whole thing about being happy and contentment. How many of us really are? Be honest with yourselves, because why fucking bullshit yourself? If you're not content, if you don't even feel content, whatever that feels like to you, it's like, the only thing you do is mentally keep telling yourself just to, move forward. It's like, if you don't feel content, you don't feel content. What can you do? You just try to keep striving for it, I guess. While dealing periodically with some of us that still have this flash in your head just for a millisecond, the suicidal thing, that dark energy, whatever it is. I had this go through my head off and on, even recently. It's like I don't like that feeling though. That whole suicidal crap. Then you have to realize it's like holy shit, I gotta snap out of it. Yeah.
Okay, Star, that brings up something really, really good, because you know what? I actually had a realization to myself this weekend, or a rediscovery, if you will. And I went through a lot of time back in 2009, 2010, up to about 2012, where I had really struggled with a lot of dark thoughts. Not suicidal, but just, it was like there was always negative storylines in my head. Negative, like car accidents and plane crashes and whatever you can kind of come up with as a parent that's negative, like that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, wow, you've got to just stop. You cannot allow yourself to have these thoughts anymore. And I went through like couple of months where when I found myself going to that place, to be like, no. And I turned it off. And I realized just recently, as you guys might know and may have noticed, I rant a lot.
I haven't even noticed that one.
I haven't noticed.
I know. I rant a lot. And if you guys think I rant a lot out here, you have no idea what goes on in my head. Because my head rants. And I literally sometimes get myself in a place where I rant in my head. Like it's screaming up and down, temper tantrums. Every argument that you have with anyone, whether it's your best friend, whether it's the shopkeeper, whether it's the stupid cop on his motorcycle blocking traffic while he chats with his chum, I fucking up here, it just goes. And this weekend I had this moment where something happened, something was said, and I started ranting in my head. And I was like, wow, that is so fucking negative. Hold on. Sorry guys, I choked on that glass of water. And now I'm continuously choking. I can't get the water out of my lungs. I had something like, that is so fucking negative. And I've said to you before, like I have like a whole mental visual exercise. When shit happens that's really ugly, when there's stuff that's very oppressive or even external, I have a big ass fucking mental door. And it looks like something out of a sci-fi Dragon's Keep type thing. And it's a massive door. It's like you just slam this big ass metal door down. No. Lock it out. And I started doing that this weekend. When I started ranting in my head, as soon as I caught myself ranting about something in my head, having these imaginary conversations where you're telling someone right the fuck off, no, stop, close the door, boom. And it fucking works. I'm sorry, it works for me anyways. That's all I can say. And I've made more aware.
Being the awareness, that makes me think of the awareness thing. If suddenly it's like there's something, the awareness, well, I call my awareness shield, that drops, then that cynical crap I stay in it too long. That focus, I'm like, God, what the fuck am I doing? I gotta get out of this. So I realize it. I'm like, yeah, it drives you nuts if it's like this constantly trying to be aware of every fucking thing in your head, and that comes out of your mouth. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah.
It's hard. And Stephanie, you just fucking made me crack up laughing. Non-stop internal Tourette's monologue. Yes, we have just diagnosed it. It's a non-stop internal Tourette's syndrome. Yeah, but you know what? Like, it's made, for me, I feel lighter because of the fact of just, now that I'm like, okay, you got to stop doing this. Don't allow yourself to go into these rants, regardless of how pissed off you are, regardless of how totally justified you might be in wanting to curse out the cop sitting in the middle of the intersection eating his donut, stopping traffic. Just stop. You're like, no, I'm not going to rant at him. Why would I waste the energy? Close the door. Slam it. That was one of my big things for me. Kind of almost like a repeat of 2012 again, where I went through this back in 2012, and I went back through this again, just this weekend. Maybe we are looping. Maybe we are looping.
But are we looping? Or is it looping?
I don't know, dude.
You see, like, well, like, it's kind of funny. It's like, well, it's like, it's that Jordan B. Peterson kind of perspective, right? Are things occurring, and like we've said, it's like the proverbial they are not necessarily very imaginative, but so are they processing in the same cycles, e.g. the same shit is going on because that's all they got. But what we're sitting here doing is we're still correlating it back to these other things. Like, we look, it happened here and back here and back here and back here. Whereas once again, it's like, okay, we can't look at the situations under all those things. We've got to look at it here. We've got to look at it now. And we are quite good at pulling out, like, what are they distracting us from? But what I find is what we do is we fall back to and look, it happened here and it happened here and it happened here, as opposed to, you know, JFK died, but we still sit there and go, look at 9/11, look at JFK. Look, it's like, they're not the fucking same fucking thing. They were all dealing, like, JFK got killed because he was about to fucking take some shit out. Right? Regardless of whether he was still a pawn or not, he was trying to take some shit out. It was quite evident, right? 9/11, same thing. What were they doing? Trying to fucking hide money tracks. Whose those tracks were? Da-da-da-da-da. Now, are they trying to hide that financial track again right now with all the shit that's going on? Because right now, it's like everyone's going, oh, shit. This is all literally pointing to, like, fucking 3 or 4 families, literally 3 or 4 families, regardless of all the pawns, players, fucking chess pieces, yada yada. It's like, you know, it's like Hillary Bush's, Clinton Bush's, and now it's like church and crown. I mean, I don't know if everyone saw that some of the North American Indians
going to the Vatican.
Are going to the fucking Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, another quite interesting thing.
Yeah, we talked a bit about that on Sunday.
So, are we re-looping in our thought processes, or have we been re-looping in our thought processes, and are we coming into a more analytical, for lack of better terminology, more analytical on, like, okay, we're in 2018, we're not in 2017.
Yep.
What's going on now?
Yep.
You know, like floating planes and yada, yada, yada. It's like, what the fuck's that shit about? It's like, are we actually, because I had this thought, I was like, could you imagine if, like, they actually do train pilots in a certain way, and every now and then what we actually find is these energy vortices on ley lines actually open up and that shit can't move for some time? So it's just like, yeah, it's sitting in space, and it's just like, oh, fuck. We hit one of those things again. And for pilots, it's just normal. And right now we're going, oh, oh shit. And once again, it's like when you buy a yellow car, you've never seen a yellow car on the road, you buy a yellow car and fucking every third car is yellow all of a sudden. You just start noticing them more. So, you know, I guess back to the sort of the trait of what I was getting at is are we finally, like in that declaration for levity, coming out of our self-observation mode and is this what we're doing is like that single train of thought is no longer fucking holding, you know, their mastery of media manipulation and whatnot is no longer holding. People are looking elsewhere. People are, you know, that we're actually needing more fulfillment and contentment in information, literal information, because we're noticing things that don't make sense under the current
paradigm of belief structure.
The current ruse.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm sort of starting, and that's why I think that the situations are getting more boring, and the external field, or like the individual involvement and collective involvement in doing things like these chats, like all these talks and stuff like that, is actually providing that contentment now. So the stuff we're being sold isn't.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, well, fucking, okay, Putin got in again.
Exactly. This is
what's that? Is that like 18 years now or some fucking shit like that?
He did have a break. He did have a short break in there because Law said he couldn't run for a fifth.
Well, they term. Said, and then he created president. So
yeah, well, yeah, you just, don't even go there. Yeah. So
Ben just made me laugh because he said Hillary Bush's. That made me laugh.
No, and that's the difference. Okay, so Stephanie, let's maybe even clarify that, because that's a good thing. It's because I don't want people to misconstrue what I said about negative thoughts in that new age paradigm of like, oh, be all light and love. You can't pay any energy to the net. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, because listen, bullshit is bullshit, and we all call it the bullshit, and I will certainly continue to call it the fucking bullshit. It's how in your head the stuff that runs in the background. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you're working on a problem, it's like I always say, like you've kind of got your forebrain and your background brain. If I'm working on a product, I'm working on something within my forebrain that my attention is concentrating on here. But then you have your background, and that's the little voice that rants in your head, and you don't even necessarily realize what's going on until you start listening to what you're saying to yourself. Till you start listening to the argument that how mad you are about what happened, and I should have said this, and I should have, you're a fucking stupid idiot moron, and I reach out through the screen and fucking slap you, and yeah, that's how my head works. I can't help it. Fred, tell your son. Tell your son he doesn't want to fuck with this mama. Just
have you started noticing that side of it is in a monologue?
Yeah.
Whereas that's that like for me personally, right? That's the voice that used to come out. Like it was like, it wasn't like, you know, oh well, you've heard me. It's like fucking, you know, I bang my fucking thumb with the fucking hammer, and it's like cunt bitch. Like,
it still happens for me.
Have you got Tourette's? It's like, no, I just smashed my thumb with the hammer. And you know, but now what I find is especially on the long drives with the loud music, you can just sit there and you're like, and like I've literally started having. I'm going to say this loud on there. I've started having conversations with that voice.
So who do you think?
No,
When you
I think
start
I'm-
arguing
I think
backwards,
I'm killing D. I'm killing D with, is it both the voices or just one of them?
Who or what do you think that voice is, Ben?
Well, see, this is it's kind of funny, right? It's, for me, it's all me. It is all me. Even with like, see, a lot of my, a lot of the stuff that I've learned has come from very strange places. Like, I've done a lot of reading, I've done a lot of research, but the reason I've done the reading and the research is because of an instance that has occurred, whether it's been literally out in the bush or sitting down at a party and and this is generally, like, I'm always stoned, so I'll put that out there, but I don't use psychedelics anymore. I don't do that stuff, and I haven't really done that stuff for quite a few years, so it's not from there. Sleep, I'll just say sleep time, whether it's astral traveling, whether it's visitations or anything like that. And like, okay, and I'll state one of the entities that has visited me, and I'll call it an entity now but I don't see it as separate from me anymore. But Thoth turned up one night, and this was years and years and years ago. He never said anything. We went some places. I saw some shit, and the stuff I saw just so happened was stuff that I was already seeing and doing. So I was starting to get into alchemy and starting to do certain procedures and stuff like that. And then this thing happened, and I was like, what the fuck? But over the years, what I've actually come to find is it's all me, and it's not past life. It's nothing like that. It's more me providing myself, and the me and the myself being two different things, what was needed at that time to concrete or solidify a certain aspect of what was going on. So like a certain process that I'd be going through, I wouldn't be trusting myself enough in what was going on. And then something like that would happen, and it would be like, holy shit.
Yep.
And you get the correct outcome, and it works, and people benefit from that as well. So it's like, wow. So the voice is it's, I don't know, I suppose if I was to give it a foundation now, it would actually be my body transferring energy. So like, and I guess the way I'd explain is like, my cranium is essentially a resonating chamber. My head is receiving energy, and because I work on sound, quite like whether it's animals and trees and sound, that kind of sound, I would say that the way that my body processes it is in that format.
Yep.
Well, that's
So
pretty
that's
scientific, all right, but I guess that kind of covers the subject pretty well. I have a shorter version. That's you're in the frickin' flow, man, and the flow emanates from somewhere, goes somewhere, and continues on somewhere. In that sequence, you're kind of in the transition between, the emanation, and you manifested down here in the 3D into the 3D. And of course, where it goes after that, I haven't quite figured out because I haven't tried to figure it out. But you know what that damn voice is, man. Say it.
Well, see, that's the thing though. It's that thing there. It's not that thing here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It does.
No, absolutely.
So what I see it as, Morris, is bang on exactly what you said, and the way I'd explain it is circuitry. It's the same with it's the same with communication. The way that I view it all now is circuitry. So I receive stuff, and I can hold on to it, and it can make me anxious. It can make me stressed. It can cause me different things, but when I start acting on it, it's like you say, that for me is manifestation, because we are the creators. The manifestation for me is not the oh, I want this thing, and then oh, look, it's there, because sometimes it's actually there and it is the needle in the haystack. It's just you've got to find it.
Let me suggest something to you, Ben. You may or may not agree with it, but I'm going to make a suggestion to you. When you're in the flow, you don't think much. You just do it. It comes, it goes right on through. What stops it is thinking. You start thinking and you stop the freaking flow. But if you just see it, you do it, there's no thought involved. It actually works. The thoughts come in sequence. Everything just kind of goes. Like the way when you talk, you're not sitting there thinking ahead, I'm going to say this, or you don't think in sentences. The words just come out in sequence. That's a small example of what I'm trying to point to, and I know you see it. Anyway, I just wanted to make that one little observation. Anyway, go ahead.
Beautifully illustrated. Beautifully.
Yeah.
Very, very much so, and that's kind of the point that the whole levity collective thing is about, is trying to create the space that people can do that.
Can be there and be there with support.
That they don't need the filters on to question themselves, because exactly what Dee just said, the support is there. So there is no faltering, because what you find is like, you can put everyone in a line and go, this is the job. Trust that everyone that stepped up knows what they're doing, and you end up, it's like, it's really fucking funny, because you can stand there and literally with like 5-10 people and sit there doing your thing, and then all of a sudden there's a hammer and someone's like, how the fuck did you know? And you're like, it doesn't really matter. Oh, here, you want this, you want that, here you go. But everyone's doing the same thing back for you as well. And then you turn around and no shit, you've got a whole house.
Yeah. Yep.
And the thinking, it's the stopping to think. It's the stopping to think, because the conversations generally in my head don't stop.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me.
Exactly. No, it doesn't bother me. It's when like you say, it's when the conversations turn negative, and you realize that the conversations, instead of being like this, start going like
and
this.
That's what I'm getting at. That's where
when you bring it back to that. Yeah.
That's where the third conversation, because I'll have these two things, and basically it'll be like, it's the what are you doing now and what's next. It's not like what happened.
Yeah. It's
just those two, and then something else will come in and go blah 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 blah. But then the what next one will go, who the fuck are you? And then this one here, the third voice is like, and then it'll be like, you don't know what you're fucking talking about. And it'll be like, and then literally, then the other voice is just like, but who the fuck are you?
Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm schizophrenic, and so am I.
Exactly. And me too.
Hey,
me too.
Can I add something in here? Because
obviously, Dawn.
Yeah. Having come from an addiction background and understanding a lot better now about these voices, because I feel that the root of addiction is caused by these voices, and it's the AI mimicker that mimics you. And I, since I've come through my stuff, I still deal with these type of attacks. You can ask Maury. He can hear me in the room sometimes going, fuck off, because they'll come in on me and I know it's not my stuff. And it'll come in at the weirdest times. And I think that there are a lot of people that deal with that don't understand that's what they're dealing with. It's not really them.
Yep.
And I think once you understand that, then you move forward and you get to where Ben's at or where I'm at. But some people don't deal with the negative impersonator or the negative AI as badly as others. I've learned how to deal with it just because I also have a background in alchemy, and I understand I actually know how to blow up thought forms, so they're pretty scared of me. But they'll come in, and it's not a pleasant experience. So it's part of this walk, I feel. But when it's flowing, when you know it's your own spirit, there's just a flow to it. And then
exactly.
And it's a beautiful thing versus the second guessing. If you find yourself second guessing, you have to kind of feel that. Did that flow in real smoothly on that second guess, or did it come in a different energetic? Because that's the only real way you'll know how to differentiate this stuff sometimes.
Yep. And the other thing is for me is going back to me and my steel-plated door. If it is truly me, or even if it's truly warranted, i.e., you're pissed off about something that is truly warranted, that you're working through an actual issue that needs to be worked through, you can shut that door all you want. It isn't going to shut it off. When it's that secondary, that other, if you will, when I slam the door shut, it's gone. It's cut off.
Yes.
And that's discerning between the two. Because, yeah, you know what? There's bullshit in our lives that makes us angry. And you and you deal with it.
And that's all right.
And that's totally okay, because you know what? It's just fucking life in general. Sorry.
I live by Rage Against the Machine. Your anger is a gift.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Don't let anyone tell you any otherwise. It's how you express it. It's how you, and this is the same, because I totally agree with you, Dawn. It's like, and what I'm probably doing is what most people would consider torture. But I invite all of that shit in while I'm doing stuff.
Well,
and with what Morris was saying, what I've found is I can channel a lot of shit, and Dee can vouch for this. I can get a lot of shit done, like a lot of shit done.
It's kind of like he feeds off of it.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So
you get used to it.
It's quite well. I permaculture everything. So within that, even those energy forms, it's like, okay, what's its input, what's its output, and how much energy does it use? And if it's really detrimental, that's when I kind of do stop and I sit with it for a little bit and work out whether it is actually there's any benefit to it at all.
Yes.
And disregard it because it doesn't mean a thing. And that was the thing is what I found is it's when you start giving those things meaning. So it's meaning or use. And if you give it too much meaning, it becomes an attachment. But if you can use it and get it out,
it's not there at all. What you're saying is you're being the observer. And when you're the observer, you don't get that emotional connection. You can measure it out. There's a big difference with that. But see, this is a big deal for me because y'all gonna, with the addiction background and me going into these, I was on Narcotics Anonymous forever. I've got friends in this program I still hang with. I've been in 4 rehabs in my life and until I went through the spiritual awakening. But then I went back and I was telling NA, AA, CA, Cocaine Anonymous, hey, I can tie this all together and let me tell you how I can do this. And because of these voices, because of these, this other realm that a lot of people have seen things. And I had an entire room speechless and they literally threw me out of that program.
They would, because they don't like those kind of thoughts.
And it wasn't the people or my friends, it was the ones running it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, oh, y'all think you're different because you're doing different things. But let me tell you how it begins. And it begins the same for all of us. And it follows the same path. And the same beings are involved. And it's all about whose game are you in. And I followed my heart with this thing. And yeah. So it is that. It's that sickness that everyone, we create this shadow in life because of all the trauma, and we don't know how to deal with this place. So we create our shadows, and that voice that mimics us, that we believe, hook, line, and sinker, draws us into all kinds of bad stuff. And you know what I mean?
I think that the way it goes with a lot of things, especially, and you brought up the perfect example of like the 12-step programs, right? Because they give a set response. That was your problem. Pick any one of them over here, and here's how you're going to deal with it. And it's this one-size-fits-all type thing, and it does not. Well, first of all, it's heavily based in Christian rhetoric, right? But beyond that there is this one-size-fits-all piece to it, and there's no room for thinking outside those 12 steps. There's no room for thinking outside or coming up with an answer that steps outside their
paradigm,
their storyline, their paradigm, exactly. And none of us are one size fits all. None of us are one size fits all. And how we visualize things, how we perceive things, how we deal with things, how we put things together is different for every single one of us, because we're all different people. Ben and I are really, really fucking similar, and it used to be really funny in Australia because we could have conversations between him and I that no one else could follow, because our brain kind of works in similar, really weird ways. And yet Ben and I are very different, and we have very different experiences and very different perceptions of those experiences because we're different. And when we look at all these things, I don't know. There was a story, an analogy, I guess, a little story that came up that Nick came across it, and he sent it to me. And every so often, but once a year or so, it kind of floats through the internet and kind of cycles back to you. And Nick always jokes and says it's one of the most terrifying things he's ever read, for him personally. Well, I thought it was beautiful. He thought it was terrifying. And it's a person having a conversation with God. And basically he's going through his whole perception of what his life had been. And God basically sorts him out and says, well, no, what you don't understand is you are the only person on this world. And you were the slave, and you were the master. And then you went back and you were Jesus, and then you were Judas, and then you were, and that basically it was like reliving every single, this one person being every single perception, every single experience, everything, continue, like almost gathering up this massive experience of everything that could possibly be perceived and experienced. And in a way, I kind of feel that that's kind of sort of true, maybe. Not to that specification, that specific thing, because I really don't fall into the whole new age kind of we are all one source, blah, 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 blah stuff. But in the fact of, I honestly think that we all gather up these adventures, these experiences and our perceptions, and we share them together. And in some other place, some other higher place, maybe our other consciousness, whatever, we gather those all up. And we do have a way of being able to express those all together in a way that maybe we can even better understand.
Or we are expressing those all together.
Oh, we all are.
We're just
right now.
We just haven't learned how to integrate them all.
Hey, Danny, this is Teresa. Hey, everybody. Sending so much love. I'm so, I'm sitting here with chill bumps all over me because I haven't had a chance to jump in on very many things. I just get to watch archives a lot lately because I've been so busy. But I'm freaking out here because this conversation that I just kind of came in a minute ago is to me like the thing that's happening now in such a degree. And I just wrote something. I know this may sound silly, but I had responded to a post that somebody, you know, because this is the conversation right now. And I kind of liken it to this. You know, imagine how you go outside when it's snowing and you and your children build a snowman. And you know for a fact that every single one of those little snowflakes are completely and utterly different and individual. But guess what? It's possible to build that big, huge, beautiful snowman. And we can see this crap in nature. And I feel so strongly within me that this is the thread that hasn't been unwoven, is to allow one another to be and exist in their complete and utter beauty, and still, like you just said, have the conversation. You know, why is that so, fucking hard for everybody? I don't understand it. And I have, like, you know, you just mentioned a certain, you know, group that's doing things a certain way. I've listened to so many videos and conversations over the last several months and just quietly sat back and thought to myself, the same problem is going on that's always gone on. And it's like, you know, so what if this person over here in Asia does something this way because that's been their experiences and culture or whatever that they might be breaking away from. Who the fuck cares? Why is it so hard? I don't get it. I really don't, because for me, it's not. I mean, it tears my heart up and just breaks my heart up when I see so many communities just falling apart because they think they have to agree on everything. And I mean, I know you've had the experience of, you know, intentional community and all that stuff. I mean, I've listened to what Ben's talked about with it, and it's huge. But even just trying to get along as groups and allow one another to be who we are. Okay, somebody answer the question, why is that so hard? I don't find it hard. And it doesn't mean because I'm a pacifist, because I'm not. I just sit back, I listen. Okay, so I'm done. I'm done with my rant, but I just can't believe I jumped in on this conversation right now because I haven't been able to do it. And so much love to everyone anyway.
Yeah, it was good to hear from you, Teresa. We've been missing you. You know what? There's too much. Okay, I'm going to use this word, and it's a dirty word because it's a misunderstood word. And there's too much ego. And I mean that, and I mean ego in the highly commercialized, vastly misunderstood way that people perceive ego. That people have. You know,
Deanie, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but, you know, you hit the nail on the head. And I've been posting stuff about just that. Because until we honestly go in, and sometimes, yeah, I'm sorry, I feel blessed that it took me falling down and pretty much, other than you guys at one point, having not a goddamn soul in my life that I've poured my guts and money into to be there for me. And I had the blessing of going into that void and looking really deeply at myself and the dark part of me that is exactly what you're talking about. And I'm thinking to myself, how come I got that blessing, but that's something that's so hard for people to do? I posted that hero's journey crap out there. I mean, that's what it's all about. It is about the internal journey to make the decision on who the fuck's going to run the show from this day forth. Ego or your higher self or whatever anybody wants to call it. Your best self, whatever. Right, Danny? I mean, you're so right. I'm sorry. I'm going to quit.
Well, the problem is, first of all, is that, like I said, the word ego gets used a lot, and it's used as a misnomer because people don't, the concept of ego is not bad. Everyone has ego, and you know what? It's actually good for you. You have ego, you feel good about yourself. You've got a talent at something, and you're really proud of your talent that you can do whatever this one thing is. 2 things, 10 things. Whatever it is, ego is not a bad thing. It's all things in balance, right? So I'd hate hearing when we use the word ego as a villainization. So I'm going to take that out. Strike it. I didn't say the word ego.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, it's not all bad. If you really think, actually do some thinking about it, maybe put your heart into it, I guess, too. It's like, yeah, it's not all bad. it can be useful. Makes me think of something that even Duncan O'Finian said a long time ago about when you were talking about that on one people. It's like, it can be a driving tool for your inner fire or whatever. It can be useful.
I want to say something with that, because true discernment would be when your ego is working for your heart, where it's connected, where a lot of people's is not on this planet, obviously. But also too, it's about defining your game. And if, you have rules of your game, and there may be people in this community that don't seem to follow those rules, and I'm the kind of person that if you can't follow the rules of my game, then I can't have you in my game. It doesn't mean that I don't love them.
Yeah, absolutely. But for example,
it means that I have to stick to what I have defined as my game.
And we all go through that. We all go through that, Dawn. I totally get it.
And you've got to define.
I want that clear here, because this is not about, I guess there has been issues with the groups like was just brought up. And there was a lot of emotion, and we've all worked through that. But, at the end of the day, it is about defining each one of us needs to define our game. And if our game all interlope with each other, then that's a great thing.
But there's a discernment there, though, that has to happen for each person. And the fact is, boundaries versus beliefs.
Exactly.
And that is a real fucking huge gray area, because there's a lot of people work on a belief structure and they don't even realize that. And that's one of the things when I've had so many conversations where I've said, like, we need to unite people together, and we need to come together and realize we don't need to believe the same thing. We don't need to have the same religion or the same belief structure or the same even level of comprehension of what this fucking bullshit world is, right? It's about working together with people. That doesn't mean that you accept bullshit, and it doesn't mean that you allow bullshit to play out in your world, right? But there is a very, very delicate balance between belief and boundaries. And a lot of people, I think, trip over those lines. Really, really do. They trip over them. I don't believe the same shit that Ben does. I don't believe.
I'm sorry. You're so right, Danny. I just had to say this because, even the ego thing or whatever, because sometimes I've been noticing that people can even get stuck to a belief that, with so many, as Tom was speaking, all the wounds and everything that we're all trying to work through, and sometimes it's taking people's self-esteems away and this and that and the other thing. And I've seen monsters being created by mistake, thinking that they are, trying to heal the wounds, but it's empowering them to become even more narcissistic. And that's what seems to be happening sometimes. Or when you're trying to help another person to, maybe step up and, the wounds heal and speak up, and then you're like, disassociated from that person because you spoke up even against them. It's not even against them, but for yourself. And it is about allowing with the boundaries, allowing one another to be who we are, as long as you're not, hurting another person. I mean, if you're interacting with me, let's say, Danny, and I have a boundary and you're crossing that boundary and it hurts me, and I tell you and you understand and you don't do it again, there you go. You're using your heart. We all make mistakes, but if you continuously do it, or you're holding on to a belief structure that
allows you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm seeing, is it's almost like there's a split going on. Is anybody else noticing that? I don't know how to explain it.
Of course there's a split going on, Teresa. You got to understand, not everybody's the same. And a lot of people, they do not function with this whole connection thing going on for them. They're into the game of existence one way or another, relative hierarchy, and they're not thinking past that. You're going to run into more people like that than you're going to find populating a place like this. Pure and simple. They're not hard connected. They may never be hard connected, but they're human beings. To sit there and to think that they're potentially going to make it that's part of your discernment. You have to come to a conclusion. There's many people are not going to be. They're not like you. They look like you, and if you're not very careful in your discernment, your judgment, you're going to say, "Oh, they're all like me," but they're not. And you have to understand that's the reality we live in. We're not all 7 billion people, human beings, connected with source and all of that kind of thing. But that's there's a whole smear case of documentation and stories to prove that point. I'm just going to assert it as a fact. If you're not hard connected and you're strictly encased in your mind, you look around you, upward mobility, dollars in the bank account, relative position, all of that kind of thing pretty much covers the whole world that we see displayed in front of us. And yet here we sit saying, no, there's something wrong with that. Well, I would dare say 90% of the people walking around wouldn't say, no, there's something wrong with it. They're just looking for a way to make it better. And that's part of the boundary you have to establish around yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there fighting false demons the whole time. I could go on, but I think I've said way too much already.
No, I want to thank you, Maurice, dear friend, because you've always so well tried to remind me of that. And I because of my big ol' ass heart, I'm always trying to feel equality in everyone. And I know that that's not a fact. And so I thank you for saying that. And I feel it in my heart from you. And, so I guess the thing is, we just got to let go of, there's just nothing we can do about it, I guess,
So I can speak to a little bit of this subject myself from some of the stuff I've tried to do over the last decade. What I have found, Teresa, is the problem is most people are trying to define their identity through what they have done and what has happened in the past. Most people don't try to strive to integrate with others to achieve the best outcome together. So while trying to perform projects, most people are still trying to be them.
Individual.
Whereas when you're with other people, that is the most evident time of what Maurice was just saying, which is basically we're all interconnected. Now, when you're by yourself, you're doing stuff by yourself. That's the whole thing. When you're meditating, you're in your space. You go to the void. You do your thing. Da-da-da-da-da. That's you. When you're out here in this reality, whatever it is, you're interacting. You're no longer just in your bubble. Your bubbles are then connecting, and generally what's happening is people are still trying to form their own identity. We are sentient beings. I am not my body.
Thank you so much, Ben, and I guess that speaks to what I was saying about losing the identity. Yeah.
Well, the other side, and the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because when I first started off doing the levity gardening kind of stuff, we started off from a half-acre block with my ex-partner, the mother of my child, okay? And we started getting people, woofers, which is willing workers on organic farmers, right? On organic farms. I think it's worldwide. Anyway, we started getting these people through, and we lived right next to a permaculture school. Like literally, they were our neighbors. So we had this flow on through from the permaculture school. So these guys are getting taught permaculture from someone who's been doing permaculture for like nearly 40 years. And they were coming up, and I was studying, all this other stuff. And they're coming up, and they're staying with us for weeks on end. And so I'm in my 30s at this point, and these guys were late teens to mid-20s. And then my neighbors on the community were all like fucking 60, 70 year old that like you go sit down and they'd be like, Ben, you're telling us nothing we don't know. We Bill Mollison used to sit in that chair where you're sitting. It's like, but then they'd start seeing what you're doing. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? How the hell did you do that? You're not supposed to be able to do this. You're not. And then the guys from the permaculture school, the younger people, are going, what are you doing? No, that's wrong. No. We just learn. So where I find myself in now my late 30s is I'm dealing with these 60 to 90-year-olds that have already defined themselves by everything by everything that they've been through. And then I've got this younger generation that are like already defined themselves. They already know everything. And I'm in the middle going, I know nothing. But I've had some facts presented to me along the way, and I've implemented them, and this is what they do. And from that, I've then been presented with these other facts. Now, if I add these other facts to these other facts, I have no idea what will happen, but it'll be this thing over here. Now, I can't even really explain it to you guys because it'll be this thing over here. Now, I might be able to show you, which is what we're going to get into very soon, is start filming some stuff and showing you the gardens and yada, 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 and we'll start posting it out. But even by reading Goethe and Burbank and Tesla, by reading even like, and then starting to do some of those things, fucking we've found other shit that happens as well. And then we've found other people that have tried shit that have found other stuff. And it's like, oh, I know nothing. And everyone thinks that they know something. You know, like it's only been in the last month, and I really mean this when I say this, like I am, right? But I am not my body. My body is native. And like everyone can say, yeah, like I'm actually shaking right now, like my whole body. But I am, and I am not my body. And in that there, you know, it always takes me back to Tuldi. Lateralis.
Yeah.
But I am not, so my body experiences things. I don't. It's what I take from my body's experiences here. All the chemical accumulation, the energetical accumulation, the voices that transpire from all of that stuff all happens here. You can't hear the voices in my head, but the more I talk about them, the crazier I might seem. But the thing is the voices don't have the control because I know I'm not the voices. I am hearing them. And my body is interpreting them. And it's interpreting them in the way that I can comprehend them the best to my abilities, so that then I can use my native, my vessel, to then transpire that manifestation. And like when that really sinks in, it's like that's what I mean, is the I am has conversations with 2 or 3 other voices that I know aren't me. And sometimes when I'm talking to people, the voice that is speaking to you guys right now, it's not this voice. This is I am speaking to you guys. And other times, like what we were talking with Star and stuff, I find myself just, you know, doing the yep, all right. And then I realize and I snap out, I'm like, holy fuck, I've not heard a single thing the person said. And you've been in a half-hour conversation. And it was an important one. But I can't stress that enough, is like, because that's my realization in this time coming into 2018, is that I am in control of something, and it's me doing it. The I am is doing it. My brain isn't doing shit. My heart isn't doing shit. They perform tasks, and my vessel interprets them. And the I am observes and then allows them to transpire.
I just want to thank you for that, Ben, so much, because I honestly listen so carefully and I understand and get what you're saying. And for me, I think it was that shedding or losing of the identity that allows me to have that kind of openness. I guess the I am, you know, the connection that we all are. Is that sort of what does connect us all? Is that part, the I am, that has no identity that you speak of?
But how do you identify something that changes constantly? See, this is the thing, is I should go get, I've just been highlighting in the Secret Life of Plants, but in it talks about like I can't remember his freaking name. Anyway, it talks about the dude who he was a priest and he started giving things Latin names. And then there was this other dude who was like talking about this guy, and he's like, the moment that fucking happened, is the stream died, the trees, nature succumb, and it was basically in a box, and it died. It lost its thing. That's the whole thing. Is like, you're not meant to understand things here. You're supposed to comprehend them and then utilize them, and utilize them into whatever environment. You know, and when I say environment, I mean the mind circuit, because it's the way I see it. We are all individually individual nodes. I know everyone hates that word now. In a circuit, and the circuit has certain performances, but it's like we're interchangeable nodes. That's what we are. So you can take me from here into the city, and I should be able to function and not collapse, and vice versa. But what's happening is we're all getting messed up and trying to identify ourselves by the environment, not be the nodes that are creating the environment. And that's where you keep trying to identify, like, I'm a chef, I'm a this, I am Ben, I am. It's very confusing, and it's like, well, the best we've got is I am. Because in a minute, after I finish talking to you guys, we're about to go build a fence, and it's me and one of the boys are going to build a fence and build a chicken coop. And right then, it'll be Builder Ben, you know, I have a hat on and da-da-da. But I'll still be thinking about this conversation, having the conversation with the three voices, and later on tonight, I'll be like, hey, D. So while out building the chicken coop,
I had this thought.
But I don't identify by it, because it's just stuff that I've done along the way. Like, it's funny, D, you posted a thing. It's like, what was your favorite toy? And I thought about that, and I was like, I don't even fucking remember having toys. I had heaps of Lego. And then I'm like, oh no, is this a bad memory thing? And I'm like, oh. And then I was like, oh, hang on.
What you're talking about, Ben, is knowing thyself. That's probably, I think I heard that was written over something in Delphi or something many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, actually.
Well, and do you know what the original word of ego, what it translates to? Originally? The word ego, its original translation is I am. Just thought I'd throw that in. Just to give you an idea of what a bad rap the ego's gotten.
Thank you for bringing that up again, because I remember looking that up recently about the ego. I was looking up their origins of it, and I just did it briefly, but thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
That is the original, like, you got to go way, way, way back. And it was a friend of mine who's a etymologist. I always get, not an entomologist, an etymologist.
Entomologist is completely different.
Exactly. Don't confuse the two. And that was, he was the one who told me that, and it was years ago. And it was like, because people always, and one of his things was about ego. And he says, people use ego like a dirty word, and you blame it for everything. And he says, but people don't understand that's not ego. The ego is a different thing.
What is it in a person that you interact with, or you've interacted with over time, or whatever, different people, and you see that person is always out for their self, and it's always about what can I get out of this, instead of, you know,
that's
the balance.
Self-centered. They're just self-centered. They're narcissistic.
Self-thinking.
but that's not ego. And that's where we say, like, I'm trying to go back to remembering, like, the use of words, because that is so important, I think, and for myself when I'm trying to define stuff. Someone who's self-centered is just self-centered. Someone who's possessive, someone who just wants everything for themselves, that's just what they are. It's not about labeling.
Well, that's me, not I am.
Yeah. Okay. And there you go.
Yeah.
There's the difference between the individual towards the person who is individual and always thinks themselves individual. Therefore, it's always me, versus someone who is working within the group, cooperating, working together in concert with others to build something together. Then it's I or we.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. So, have you seen it? Everyone's probably seen, like, I think it's Men in Black 3, and there's the unicorn in it. You know, they call him the unicorn. Yeah. So that's kind of how not all the time, but that's how I see stuff. Okay. So I can be sitting in a room and I can see certain things start playing out under certain circumstances through a various array of tangents. And while communicating with people, I can see in situations certain words actually trigger, and I won't say like allow entities in. It's not that. I see it open energetic doorways that then trigger people, and it's from that observation that has changed the way that I talk and communicate, which is one of the reasons why, for me, like someone like Jordan Peterson that's come out now, and what his kind of shtick is on things and the way he's sort of is communicating has been very beneficial for me, because it's made me feel less crazy in the way that I've tried. Like when I first started this, you should have seen the stuff I used to write when we first did the website. Like my friends who were very out there used to write, like they'd just be like, what the fuck
did you just write?
Hey. But we were building 3 websites at the time, and 3 of us were doing the same thing, writing the same way, and our friends actually like started kind of going crazy from reading this fucking gobbledygook. And so then what we did was we actually learned the words as opposed to making up shit for things that we thought may or would sound cool as new words to describe things. So we found new words and be able to communicate those things. It's like talking about spirit and having to define with the person that you're speaking with what their definition of that is. You know, ego, like this conversation where it's gone now, like what does ego, because I think that what most people identify ego with is self-centered.
Yeah.
Right. And I put into the chat, it's like sometimes like you can be really confident and be completely egoless, or I've been in this state or feel that I've been in this state and it has been misinterpreted completely. So it's like what Dawn was talking about. It's defining you. It's defining your I am and the boundaries that I am needs to exist within, but not in a sort of a Nazi format. The way I do it is through integration, because I feel worth in people. So like what Teresa was saying earlier, it's like my friends hate me because I will just fucking, like, we'll sit down and I'll just start giving away trade secrets straight off the bat, and the boys will just be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? But I know that these people won't get it because they'll try and do it, but it's all part of an integrated system. You can't separate any of it. Like, that's the whole thing. And in my head, it's like, we'll talk about bacteria, and the next thing is we're talking about building a house. It's like, but it's all about that side of it. So defining and then deciding like who you want in your I am world, because sometimes you need to make compromises, which does not mean you compromising the I am. It just means compromising to allow space to integrate or have someone integrate into that sphere. And then your sphere grows and vice versa. And that's like, for me, it's kind of funny because the people that were very self-centered and very me, they don't come around no more. They don't. That's even
because you're doing, Ben, you're doing what you're just talking about is what Dawn was talking about when she was saying define your game and stick with it. That's
the other side of it.
What she's talking about.
That's the other side of it. There's a lot of people that will define their game, but then they don't own it.
Yeah.
See, owning it is a whole nother part. I mean, people can, I'll get my patients to say, I want you to sit down. I want you to define out what makes you you. And they'll go, what? And I'll go, I need you to define your game. What? See, I'm just already shocking them right off the bat, but you know, it works for me. So, you know, but then you got to own it. See, owning it is a whole new process. And then, of course, it changes every day because of the very variables that you're discussing, Ben. You have to be open to these nuances and things that come in and have you redefine things. It's that constant movement and flow.
Well, they're the thing that give things a different perspective.
Flavor?
Well, a different perspective.
Yep.
You know, it's like, well, did you think about this? And it's like, or, oh, hang on a second. Oh, shit. And then, you know, it's funny. When we were talking about second guessing, it's like, how many times, like, has this happened to people? You go, I'm going to go do this, like this. You get there, you go, oh, actually, I'll do this. And then, like, literally it'll just go and
somebody
slice your fucking hand open, and then you trip over something, and then the window smashes, and then the animals get, and it's like, and at that moment you go, I fucking knew I should have done it.
You seen it. Yeah, but you know, somebody posted about, you know, inaction, like people don't follow up with action, and that's the same thing as owning it. You get action when you own something. You know, when you put your feet on the ground every day and you are those things. You just are.
I love what you guys are saying. It's like owning it, owning your game while staying open with your heart, you know, is like the biggest balancing act day by day, moment by moment, that I think is our job for each individual. And I believe that it feels as if owning your game, being strong, you know, trusting within yourself as you're staying open, it flows that way. And so I appreciate what you guys are saying so much. And then those people like Ben are saying will fall away out of your life if they're, you know, because then you're flowing. You actually are flowing in your own trust while staying open at the same time. So thank you, guys.
Well, and that's the thing about people, because I honestly believe certain people come into your life because they just come into your life, and there's a moment, and you may not, it may take you 20 years later to realize why that person came into your life at that moment. People come in and then they flow out. And sometimes it's just the natural flow. It's like I said, we're all on paths, and sometimes the paths interlock for a while, and sometimes they separate. But at the same time, there's also that flow of exactly when you have your space and you're on your journey and you're not willing to sacrifice your boundaries, I guess, where you are going to. And I mean, God knows we've used lots of words over time they've, things like you're not willing to sacrifice your morals, or you're not willing to sacrifice your beliefs, or whatever. But the true stuff, the stuff that's from here, you're not willing to sacrifice it, and those people will disappear. They do. And I mean, we see that all the time. We have people right now. I've heard this from everyone. 2018 has been this year of just people falling off. Family, friends, because it's like you reach a place and they are not there. They can't stay there, and they're not comfortable with where you are. They're not comfortable with where you sit for whatever reason. I'm not going to judge, for whatever reason, and they just drift apart. And strangely enough, it also seems to be a time where all of a sudden people from our past are all of a sudden reappearing too. So past and intertwined again.
I'm going to tell another weird proverbial Ben fucking history story thing, right? It's kind of on exactly what we're talking about, right? It won't seem like it, but I'll get there. So I was reading some articles, and it was based on old Hawaiian ceremonies, and it was talking about how when the white colonizers got there, they basically made the Hawaiians out to be cannibals. Okay. And the papers that I was reading were actually they were stuff from Hawaiian elders talking about their ceremonial / religious stuff. And they basically said it's actually against our laws to eat people. We were never cannibals. It was a burial practice. So what they used to do is even with Captain Cook, they did the same thing when he died, right? They boiled him, they took all the flesh off, they burnt the flesh, they put that out, they sent certain bones to certain places to have ceremony done, and they sent the head back to the boat. And the Hawaiians were going into how these were their ceremonial practices. This was their funeral rites, much the same as we do
cremation.
That's that thing where we burn people, right? So I was having a chat to my friend the other day, right? And the reason I'm saying this is just that the reason I told that story is to give you the twist on the way that white people have basically portrayed stuff. But what he was talking about is Māori warfare in New Zealand, and they have these weapons, right, called the taiaha, and the taiaha is quite a large, what they call a spear, and on one end it's rounded, about that sort of distance round, and it's sharp, and then the other head is a spear, so they could throw it and use it like a sword. And this was the most feared weapon until the crossbow, right? What they could do with this thing, it was they'd never seen before, right? But the Māori were portrayed as this fucking like warring, fucking cannibalistic, and I'm not saying that they weren't, but if you put that story I just told, there may be a different twist. But also what I just got told was even when they used to go to battle, they used to walk out the front and they used to state their claim generally on the land, and the two chiefs used to stick their taiaha spearheads in the ground. Now on these taiaha, they're generally tongues that come out. That's what they're carved into, as a tongue. So it's their talking stick. And each chief would stick the spear in the ground, and the planet would decide who won. So there would literally be signs given, and they'd fuck off. There would be no battle. And so that really stuck with me in the aspects of these energy things. It's like if there is conflict that arises, there are things that manifest, like we've been talking about, in certain ways. So energetically, it's like now we've actually, it's like you put it into that term, and what the that we are away from being able to resolve conflicts in a way like that, to now where you can say one word wrong and it's a trigger. It kind of leads to
open warfare.
Yeah. Well, literally. It's like, you know, when you look at at things like that, it's like, look how far we've fallen, but look how far we've come. But now wasn't then, and then isn't now. So you can't, like, that's the whole thing, is like, even with carbon dating, and like, we're not then. So anything that's being judged, measured, weighed, observed is now, and it can't be put into context 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000 years ago, because the context is different, unless it was exactly the same. And it's just been portrayed in a different way, right?
Well, and that's kind of like what I was getting at when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying, like, we're in a time now where we need to stop doing that. Always refer to the stuff back then, and we have to look at the now, just the now. And it kind of is broad spectrum. Like, it's not just about, I mean, yes, in our personal lives, sometimes you got to put away the past. You got to get rid of the past. Just forget it. Let it go. The shit that happened last month, last year, last decade, fucking last lifetime, whatever, let it go, instead of letting it being this thing that affects all these decisions that you make in the now. Right? Like, how many of us have got issues that we've had, like whether it's with a family member, a friend, a work experience, etc., and it can be years later, and it still weighs here, and all your, it ends up defining you. It ends up defining how you relate to this now moment, with someone could be completely different, in a completely different situation.
You end up using it to define you.
Yes, using it to define you, because you're not that experience. That's just another thing that you've gathered along the way. And
you're having that experience. What are you going to do with it?
Yep. And how we relate to the now is and it's a hard reminder. I have to do this myself and remind myself, like, okay, why am I holding on to this grudge, this bad feeling, this argument, etc.? I need to look at this now situation with this person or this situation as this now. Because if I'm going to use this to judge it by, then I'm probably going to judge it completely fucking wrong. Because that person is different too. What that person did a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, they're also different now. Right? But it's also in the things that we do, and the fact that we keep referring back to stuff. You made me laugh when you said about carbon dating and shit like that. We keep referring back to stuff, even in health. We refer about stuff, like I said, vitamin recommendations that were given out in the 50s that are still being used to this day. And it's like, it doesn't fucking work now, because now is completely fucking different than what the now was in the 50s when these fucking recommendations were created. We see the ridiculousness of that, but we don't necessarily look at it in our own personal life. And that's a tough one. It's a balance point, right? And it's a tough one because we learn from our experiences, but are we holding on to those experiences to the point of not being able to move forward? Because there's that past that is like, it's like an anchor that holds you back.
Well, it's like you were talking about, like, being happy and, you know, quite upbeat at the moment. It's like, for me, it's those upbeat moments. It's like, okay, I like that. That's fun. What am I doing? What's going on?
Yep.
How is this happening? Shut up, you. All right, what have you got to say? And then I do stuff. And and what I've now started being able to do is the shitty shit, and that third voice. I'm now being able to be like, okay, am I learning something from this? Nah, fuck off. Or, oh, what is here? Like, okay, I'm doing that thing. Why is that crept in? Yep. And then I might look up and over and look like, no shit, there'll be a fucking pigeon or a bird, a really nice bird sitting there, and you're like, oh, well, okay. And then I might label that interaction as something, or a sound will keep going off, and it does all these sorts of things, so that I essentially track and recreate that circuitry while doing various other things, which for me is actually what meditation kind of actually is or microdosing psilocybin or whatever it might be. It's I've found a way to interact with those things to create that synopsis or that circuitry, and all you've got to do is learn experience and just created tools. Those emotions might arise again where you go, oh, and you can go, oh, hang on, oh, my internet is.
Yeah, your internet just went wonked for a second there.
It's okay. Have I got a tool for this? Oh, I haven't got a tool for this, and that's what it's become now. It's like, okay, what tool can I create?
Yeah,
and it then I guess brings a little bit of excitement into that darkest shit or the shadow or whatever
you want to call it.
So then they all become good experiences. Well, they become all good experiences because it's all just learning. And then I'm like, oh, whoa, this is fucking. What does Cliff call it? The I can't remember. What's his word for this realm?
Woo.
No, not woo-woo. He calls it. It's like not the aquarium. The fucking.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it either.
Twilight Zone.
That word.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone is what I fucking call it.
Where it sucks balls.
Yeah, just say no
more.
Well,
then Twilight. It never sucks balls. That's what I'm saying is it never sucks balls. It seems like it sucks balls, and it smells like and looks like it sucks balls, but it doesn't.
Well, you got to remember, I deal with sick people every single day. My whole life is about sick people and animals. Okay, so I see a lot from this side, and it's not pretty.
Yes, but don't let it. Yes, but don't let it define you.
I don't. That's why I do what I do, because I hate. I don't want to use the word hate, but I don't like this place. It sucks balls to me. So therefore, I try to change people, animals. I try to help, because if I can't do that, I would just shoot myself.
No.
Honestly, I can't.
But that's the thing, Dawn. You can and you are. So it doesn't suck balls.
It sucks balls for me because I don't like this place.
Yeah, no, and I totally appreciate that. But look at what you're doing.
But it drives
look at what you're.
It drives me.
You drive you.
Well, you know what I mean. My own spirit drives me because I don't resonate with this Twilight Zone.
But that's what I'm getting. It like we're talking now, and I'm saying what you're doing is amazing. So it doesn't suck balls. What you're witnessing, totally. But look at your achievements. Look at what your situation is showing and proving you. Like, that doesn't suck balls at all. So yes, what you're witnessing and observing, totally. But it's put you in the position to be amazing.
Thank you.
So it doesn't suck balls at all.
Yes, can I say to Don and you guys, wow, I love this, because us people that are out there trying to temper that ball-sucking shit going on is what we need to grow as strong as we can in, because that, to me, is what the action is all about. You take the ball-sucking shit and you spread your love all over it, and there you go. So thank you all that does that, because I'm with you.
We have just invented new terminology tonight.
I love it.
Sucking shit.
I wonder if this will come up on Cliff's algorithms.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, Cliff, have you got any algorithms for the terminology ball sucking shit?
Yeah, but
Like,
the imagery that goes along with it.
Oh no. Oh no, you just took the third voice there, Storm. You just took the third voice there.
You know, it's interesting you talk about voices, Ben, because for me, the different voices have different vibrational tone inside of me. That's the best way it resonates through me, and I can tell you what is what. But most of the communication that comes to me, or I'd say 75% of it, comes through pictures. You know, they show me stuff.
Well, see, yours is possibly that way, and like what you've just been speaking with us here is like your I am has been saying what you see, you know, what you see. So it's going to, I would assimilate it if I was that way inclined, because see, I hear, and I hear nothing sometimes, but I know I'm hearing something. You get what I mean? Like, but I know it's something coming in and being interpreted in this way. And then generally, if I listen long enough, these see it, and I can see some fucking weird shit when I listen sometimes. But it talks up here, and from what you've interpreted, that's why it's been like that. See, like lots of my visitations have never been talking. It's literally been these entities going, and I'm turning around and looking at shit and going, oh. There's never been any words, but it's been up here, and it's been in monologue.
It's like you get guided. You get guided to weird stuff sometimes. I mean, Maurice experiences that with me a lot, or stuff will just come up out of me and I won't even know what it's about at first, but something like in my cells, you know, subconsciously. And I think we've all experienced that. So but yeah, it's when you really get you out of your head. For me, when I got out of my head and into my heart and into me, into who I was, I could gauge through feeling and vibration, and the words would then be secondary.
Yeah.
It flips inside out. But the normal mental person wouldn't get that.
Well, when I'm doing stuff, I don't need to talk. But when I'm sitting down conversing, like for me, that's when if we're conversing, like having conversation, that's when I start channeling. And depending on conversation, like Danny knows, this is what she's saying. We'll both, and I think this is possibly what happens with Dee too, is like when you start rapping, you just talk over each other. And if it's actually flow, it doesn't matter. But other people will be like, you don't let me speak. It's like, every word you say is
we've already got it. We've already got it. We're just going on with
it. And once again, see, that's a communication thing. It's like I have to control that in these, is why I mute myself and just keep talking off air to save everyone from. But that's that whole thing, right? Is like we're now in a defining moment of where we are, not who we are, because the minute that you sort of let go of trying to do that, you're being, and then you work stuff out, and then it's not your environment defining you. All of a sudden, you are your environment.
Well, you know what you call that when your when your awareness exceeds the reality around you, the constraints of this reality, then it has to remorph around you. And that's the beauty of it. Like I say, that's what happened to me when I walked out of my addiction like I did. Went to bed one day, woke up, not an addict. It was gone. So that's the only way I can describe it.
Well, and that's why, like, and Dee can back me up, is like my what is it? my steward role here that I've always stated is to try and create space, because it's the constructs and confinements that we each find ourselves in that kind of make us not actually be able to comprehend how far we could go, because we don't necessarily comprehend the potential of how much we're constrained. And that's what I'm saying.
You don't realize you're inside the box when you're inside the box.
Well, see, and that's one of the reasons why I stay on Facebook, because out where I am, I could lose myself. You know, I can turn off the computer. I can yeah, I can still need a bit of a job, but what we can achieve is, you know, pretty cool. We can, all the stuff that we've all been talking about, we could do it right now. Yep. We can live sustainably as a family here, feed ourselves and our friends, yada, yada, yada. We can do that. But I've got to stay fucked up with the Facebook stuff and the media stuff, because otherwise, when I talk about like what we've just been talking about, Dawn, essentially is like, you've got to, everything that looks shit, you've still got to put a flip on it. And it's all, okay, what else? Or what else? And that's what I'm saying. So if the situation wasn't shit, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So then from it being shit, you've learned what you've learned and you've achieved what you've achieved thus far. Now take the shit away and imagine what you could do. So all it's doing is preparing you for the shit to not be there, because then you can excel without the boundary. And that's the space that I'm talking about.
Wonderfully said, Ben. I got to interrupt. That was a beautiful observation, and I do want to insert myself to compliment you on that one. That was great. Thank you.
Well, that goes out to everybody, though, right? Yep. Like that, and that's the thing, is like, even when it's shit, it's like, look how far you've come. Look at what you've become. Look at who you're becoming. Look at the potential of what could be achieved if this and this and this wasn't a constraint.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's what I mean, is like, holy fuck, we can fly, like, because it's a potential.
Yep.
Because it's a potential. Everything else works towards that. Like, you know, and that's what I mean, is out here, I can see that. The people that we're working with is like, oh, fuck.
See, the thing is, though, folks, is anything and everything that you can imagine actually exists somewhere out there in the vast multiverse. Now, that's not a mind fuck. I don't know what it is, but it's cool to think about at the same time.
Yep.
So cool to think about.
But I want to go back to the idea of community and the idea of like, John, what you brought up about boundaries, because this is a really important thing. Because, like I said, been there, done that, been along with me on the journey several times. When we start looking at how people react, how people act, how people deal with the shit, it's a huge indicator to me. Like, we watch how people deal with the shit that comes at them and how they process that and how they work through it gives you such a greater understanding of the person themselves, but also what their, I don't want to say limitations, whether or not they're working from outside or they're still stuck within that box, right? And it's funny, because we were talking about people who are self-serving, people who are selfish. And maybe instead of saying egotistical, you have to say they're just selfish when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And we look at things like, for example, the preparation point, like Ben said, about how we can take away, we're all prepared so that we can take away all those fucking boundaries, take away all that fucking, the boxes that surround us, how we can move forward. And I look at it in that way of, like, for example, if money wasn't an issue, and oh God, Anne's probably going to giggle when I start on this, because this conversation comes up at least once a week. If money's not an issue, what would you do with your time? What would you do with yourself? What would you do with what you have? Be it what you literally physically have, the knowledge that you have, the talent that you have, etc. What would you do with it if money was never an object? If it was literally just gone, that concept, entire concept of it. And the people who are selfish would still hoard. And they would still be selfish. The people who are not, the people who are working not for the me, but for the we, if you will, lack of better terminology, because I hate that word too. That comes out now. That we can see it now. We can see it in how the people work towards those things. I have this conversation regularly. I'm, struggling with business, and I'm trying to put stuff together, and I got to walk the balance line and make fucking ends meet, and you've got to try and make sure the product that you're making is like this, but it's got to go like this, but then you get this on it, and then you've got to, then you have to charge people for it, because obviously you just had to pay for it. The never-ending fucking nagging argument within my head continues all the time. But if money's no longer an option, then you do it for the passion and the joy that you have from it, right? Dawn, you would always do what you do because that's what you love to do. Ben will always do what he does because that's what Ben loves to do. Same with me. I will always do my stuff with the treatments and the skincare and all the rest of it because it's what my passion is. So when we find our people, when we find our tribe, do you know what I'm saying? I think that the one commonality that I think everyone here can see is the fact of, I think most of us would just continue doing what we love to do, what we're good at doing, and the whole fact of money really doesn't play into it, and it doesn't really matter in the end of the game because we just don't fucking care.
And the funny thing is even if you're right now not doing that, that would let you find it.
It would let you find it because you've been so, well, this is it. There's lots of people who can sit here right now and go, but I don't know what I want to do with my life. And it's because you've never been given the opportunity to find out.
Well, and the other side of it is
the thing that makes you passionate is baking pizzas in a stone fire powered oven. And that might just be your greatest creation that you ever do. You never know because you never had a chance to find it.
And the other thing is once again, we've been trying to define ourselves by that thing instead of being and doing that thing.
Yep.
So that concept gives it it gives it that other twist. So it's those viewpoints that if you start having, so it's like the hardest thing is like, and like I say, I live in pretty much quite pristineness, right?
Yeah.
There hasn't been Roundup here for like 30 years. There hasn't been logging here for fucking 40 years. Yada, 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 yada. We live in the northeast coast of a fucking subtropical jungle. We live with permaculture communities and multiple occupancy communities, strata title communities, a active advocate for pro-marijuana use and all that kind of thing in that area. And yet that area for, I think it's 40 years now since this area had the Aquarius Festival and all that sort of stuff took off, which was kind of Australia's Woodstock, just to let everyone know who doesn't know. Like we did have one. It was quite massive, and it set this entire sort of east coast of Australia up in its hippie labelled mind frame or societal structure. But even here, like trying to get a cooperative to function is hard. So like, even though it might seem like, it's we
Perfect.
do live on heaven and earth, the exact same social constructive firewalls exist.
Yep.
And
amazingly so.
What the defining is going to take, I couldn't even fathom what that is, because then my brain goes into the potentials and fucking. But what I can say is that by acting honorably and doing what we've talked about, starting to define yourself by not defining yourself by all the things, and start I guess seeking within that foundation, things start changing. I mean, I would say that that's probably what's brought 90% of us, if not all of us, to being where we are right now.
Yeah.
Wherever you are around the world, having this discussion.
What you're talking about, Ben, let me interrupt again. What you're talking about is being. And the more you be in that sense of being, the more you find it works. Now, but you got to do it. You've got to accept that is what you're going to do. And in that acceptance and then in that doing, you find miraculously that it works. And you know this from your own life experience already, don't you? That everybody else doesn't do it, and everybody else is running around chasing their tails. That's them. But you're sitting there walking your walk, being your beingness, so to speak.
You're doing.
It works miraculously, doesn't it?
Exactly.
No, that was the one thing that killed me when I got there. So when I was in Australia, Ben and I, we shared a house with our friend Mark on this permaculture piece of land. And technically, kind of like Ben said, really, it was set up. It should have been the kind of place where you should have been able to have met like-minded people, and you should have been able to have worked to achieve this wonderful, incredible community. And it so was not like that. So not like that. Like, it was just ego.
Lots of competition. Lots of competition.
Selfishness, etc. It was continuous. The stuff that our friend Mark, the house that we stayed in, the stuff that he went through. And this guy, like, Mark's just got the biggest heart. Like, he's just out there and he just did whatever had to be done every day. And he'd go out and he'd just garden the land and the whole community, and away he went. And the shit that he ran into, the competition, the selfish, egotistical, if you will, meism and hierarchy, and oh, but you can't do that because we've got to put it towards the council, and then it's got to be voted on. And that was one of the most shocking aspects to me. It was like, wow.
I declared lawful rebellion against my community under the Magna Carta. That's what I did. But I did that to the Queen as well and stuff. So, but I actually stood up in a fucking meeting and was like, fucking lawful rebellion. That's it. Magna Carta, 1215, you're out.
Living with him is interesting. I just want to say that. You'll never have a dull moment. Never. And I miss you, Ben. I miss you. I miss having you guys around. Fuck, one of those things, if we could just find that island, we keep talking about the Unfuckers Island, so that we could just build something and actually...
You know that Australia is an island, eh? It is an island.
Yeah, you know, I'm never fucking going back.
House everyone.
You know, Gozo is also an island,
Yeah,
right?
Gozo is also an island. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and how's your soil looking?
Yeah, which is why we need to come here. Yeah, that's why we need you to come here. Yeah, okay, how about a better island? One that has not got Australian bureaucracy bullshit, and not bad Goziton soil.
Without a Gilligan, we don't want a Gilligan.
And I thought you were Gilligan Star.
Popped in my head, I'm sorry, Gilligan thing.
Danny.
Hey, but hey, they had no problems with food, nothing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why? My question is why? Why, like what you just said, in a place that is just so beautiful, so pristine, people you would think of like minds coming together, why does it happen every time like
because of the programming. These people, there's a perception, right? There's a perception that it's like, okay, so let's say they embrace permaculture as one example. So we don't want chemicals, and we want to grow on the land, and we want to do it right, and we want to do it all this way, but they're still working from within this structure, inside this box called mainstream education, societal pressures that tell you exactly how it has to be, and you can't possibly have a community without having a hierarchy. And whoever's at the top of the hierarchy is the one who makes the decisions, and if you're at the bottom of the hierarchy, you don't get a say. And it's like it's almost fake. It's almost fake.
Yes. Well,
it's fake.
Here's my question.
Fake.
Right.
Yeah.
So what the reason I asked the why, for instance, I read that book years ago with M. Scott Peck, A Different Drum, subtitled Community Making in Peace. And you cannot have it without a hierarchy. I mean, you have to not have a hierarchy. And why cannot we do this? That's my question. What is there? I mean, I know you can't, like do anything for anybody else on their internal journey, but where's the information that these people would see that? I mean, why is it not being seen? That's my question. Why is it like,
it's against the programming. Well, they're not going to let you see this shit. Ben is going to die, and they're going to keep talking. Because Ben is going to keep talking over top of him.
Well, wouldn't that be the same thing as the AANACA, kicking me out,
It's
right?
Where's the answer? I want the solution. I want to know if there's anything within me as I walk my journey with the people I interact with or in my life, or let's just say we formed a community. What's the solution? Damn it. That's what I want to know.
Ben's working on the solution, and the website will be built really, really soon, although he's been telling me this for 6 fucking months.
Answer you, Teresa. Trust.
Thank you, Ben. And I know that's absolute fact. Trusting within. And, I know that
without as well. You've got to trust without as well. More
I know that's for me, that's been the key. Is trusting within allows me to know who or where to trust. But then if you can't bring all that together, like are we going to have to wait till we fly so that we can all fly to the island that Ben's on or wherever? I mean, what's it? No.
I speak to a lot of spiritual people, and that the solution is not about what's outside. It's about what's inside. It's about cleaning ourselves. It's about being able to deal with our own stuff. Because when people in communities fight with each other out, or, like decide to, pick fights, it's not about the facts. It's not about what's what. It's about what's inside of them. It's about their mommy issues and their daddy issues and their instability and their issues with their, whatever it is.
Yep. So that's what I know. That's a fact, Sony. So that's why I'm asking. I mean, there's so much information out there that would help us people to go within. Why are they not finding it? Why is this not happening? I mean, say we do our work and we do our inner work and our journey within in order to shift into the balance of love, and boundaries and all the self-respect and all. So why does it seem so difficult for everyone to do this? You would think that, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why it's not happening more.
If people don't recognize the magic and the goodness within themselves, they're not going to see it reflected back to them because everything's a bloody reflection.
And they don't recognize the programming. They don't recognize the belief structures. They don't recognize the box that they're inside, because you have to get outside the box to see the box.
I'm going to throw something out there, all right?
Before you have a conniption, yes, please, Ben.
So, everyone keeps talking about something else because otherwise the da-da-da and the da-da-da and the da-da-da. Because if you can't trust yourself, you can't trust anyone else.
Stop.
Yes.
Go back to everyone keeps talking about and start.
Okay. So it's that whole, you're no good for anybody if you're not good for yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you can't trust anybody else. So my whole thought process under my whole new thought process or way of processing is essentially I worked out that I already trusted myself. That's why I do shit. That's how I do shit, whether it's brushing my teeth or whatever. It's thinking about not trusting myself is the issue. So what I then found was I just trust everybody complicitly, literally, figuratively and factually until they fuck up.
Yeah. Innocent until
and
proven
what
guilty.
I found is the ones that I trust and still compliment and vice versa stick around and they become my family. Yep. Right? And that's what I find is everyone's so busy not trusting everybody else and not realizing that they already trust themselves, like what Storm just said, is you have survived this long through trusting yourself. You just haven't realized that. Yep. It's not trusting everyone else. So then what happens is your barrier, regardless of whether you've defined it, you're not even letting anyone get in to fucking see how you've defined yourself because you don't trust. See, and that's coming from someone who's been burnt quite a few times through quite a few projects. So Teresa, the reason you're not seeing it is because people go, oh yeah, cool, come and do that here. We got heaps and heaps of money. And then you go and fucking smash out all this work in 7 months and they go, holy shit, this thing that you guys are talking about's real. And then they go, get out, you're trying to steal everything. And it's like, are you talking to us? What? And then you go to the next one and you go, right. And same thing. Until you actually find someone where you actually have this thing. And they then become family. And it's like, wow. And every time it happens, so you have to recognize the stuff as well. So like I say, you've gotten this far, like I was saying to Dawn, is if it wasn't shit, she may never have found her specialty, right? So the situations in which she performs her specialty may be shit, but I would say that actions would speak louder than words than what I can, convey in that situation. So it's the same sort of thing. But you've got to find it's yin and yang, man. It's fucking light and shadow. It's and you just have to trust that is what it is. Like I know nothing. I can do some shit, but I know nothing. Because it may change.
I'm wondering if anybody else. This is something I'm learning to experience very, very lately and recently, and it's new to me. But I've been doing or playing with this, and I find that when I'm faced with challenges or challenging people, or you're just basically trying to be in community. I feel something inside of me, like if I have any little bit of a trigger or something like that, that it's an energy ball. And I just kind of, when I've been witnessing, when I kind of allow myself to move that out and just sort of out of me, I've noticed that even some of the most challenging people and situations begin to soften around the edges or begin to be more in community when my whole energy is just remaining solid and in the light, per se, not love and light thing, but you know what I mean, just being not triggered by, or another person's challenge, and I've noticed, I don't know if anybody else has tried this, I've just noticed that I've seen shifts in the very moments of those things, and it softens and becomes a more beautiful flow. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's new to me, and it's something I've been doing.
Yep.
Just remember too, like, it's kind of like Morris was saying before, is like being and doing. It's kind of like community. It's like try not to define it by anything, because it has many definitions, and all of the perceptions that are participating in said defined community.
Yep.
So it's like one of the big things, Teresa, is like, even like you guys hear me talk about permaculture, okay? When I talk about permaculture, the permaculture I'm talking about isn't necessarily the permaculture that most people
call permaculture,
have in their head as permaculture, because most people see it as a gardening, holistic kind of gardening, living kind of thing. I don't see permaculture so much as that, because permaculture is what Bill Mollison created, and he actually has defined it and created a structure and stuff, but it's kind of just the manual. He just left the manual. And so when I say permaculture, I just mean his manual. It's kind of like, Steiner. He wrote a whole bunch of shit. Someone fucking started a school about it, and they were like, this is a Steiner school. And it's like, well, he had some ideas, but like, did he have Nintendo to compete with? So,
hey, you know what? Really, really quick there, bud. When I lived in the UK for 3.5 years, I lived in Castleton in the North Yorkshire Moors, and Botten, one of Rudolf Steiner's schools, was right to the south of us in, the next dale over. Unfortunately, the corporation came in and took everything over. Everybody was running it locally and everything. They had this really cool setup, man. They had a school. They still have it there. But they drove all of the good, caring people out and brought in the clinical corporation that took everything over. And it's just, it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
I'm not even going to say.
And that's kind of what's happening with permaculture as well, because permaculture has become the same thing, where here's this one thing that started off how many decades ago, and then it becomes taken over by, like, the corporation. And it's like same thing. I've had conversations with permaculturalists who have no concept of anything except farming. Like, they've only captured that farming, and that's it.
That's the thing is when an idea is thrown out there, an idea is not necessarily something that's like a fact. Like a theory isn't a fact, but we have a lot of theories that are held as factual.
Don't even get me fucking started.
So you have concepts that are created, and like permaculture is a perfect example. So what permaculture lacks is an industry. It lacks like a registerable industry, because permaculture is a certain way of doing things, looking at things, and interacting with those things. So it's actually more a lifestyle than it is a business.
Yeah.
But with the concepts it provides, if you looked at it, it actually encapsulates our entire system as it is. It's just the way that it's performed is tweaked. So what you've got is people have started creating their own concepts to get it to fit within the structure that it was created to live outside of.
Well, this you said it earlier, Ben. The whole thing about like the I know nothing, I do some stuff, and you were then open to all the new things coming in. But every time anyone, I'm sorry, follows a rule book or a manual, you become rigid within a belief structure. It becomes a belief structure, and that was 30 years ago. Is when the permaculture, when Morrison wrote the stuff. That was 30 years ago. That's not now. We have new stuff now to add to that manual. We have new stuff, new perceptions, new experiences that expand hugely on what his perception and experience was.
So, well, the manual becomes the excuse.
Yeah.
You know. Yep. It's kind of it's kind of like, oh, look, there's a manual to it. That's the excuse.
Yep.
Why are you doing what? It's the same with Tesla stuff. It's like, you know, we've got people that have got old backup energy generator banks from banks, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, can I have one? And they're like, yeah, what do you want it for? We're like, oh, stuff. Want to build a big power unit, and yep, why? And then you start talking about Tesla, and it's like there's a manual on that shit, you know. And Eric Dollard's updating that shit. It's like it's an excuse. Why not? Are you doing it? Nah. Well, we'll try not to kill ourselves, but we'll try it. They're just excuses. They're just excuses. They just present something that is worth looking at.
Yep.
And it's like if you have
to add to your book of experiences.
Well, yeah. And then we can be like, don't do this one. It hurt a lot.
Don't do it this way. We blew it up.
This one's really funny to get people when they go into the toilet. You know, I don't know.
Hey, you could say we're bathing in manuals. It just popped in my head. We're bathing
in manuals. Yes, we're drowning in manuals. That's the problem.
Remember,
Danny. Yeah, we're drowning in the motherfuckers. Yeah.
Remember that Tesla interview, and the person was like, "So how do you remember so much stuff?" He goes, "I don't have time to remember." He's like, I think he said, "I just trust that it will be there when I need it."
Yep. And it is. I'm sorry, but that's that trust. I don't know. That's that's an interesting way of putting it. You guys you put something into perspective for me tonight too about that whole concept of it. Sometimes you do stuff without even having a defining or a definition for what it is that you do, and that's the same type of thing with me. With you trust that you know that you're going to know what you need to know, and that when you bring out what you know, it's going to be right because you trust that that's where the information has come from, and you know that you've got the information.
You're do-doing.
I'm do-doing. I'm just doing. I'm on about the do-doing.
With the manual thing, I mean, I keep on hearing the word expansion in myself because everything is up for expansion. Oh, I'm sorry. My daughter-in-law's here. If even a manual, a book, no matter what it is, if we don't allow for an expansion, then what is life really?
Well, you know what? A manual needs to look something like this, right? It needs to look like a book. It maybe the first couple of pages have got writing in them, and then the rest is open to fill up.
You lost my drawing.
I'm sorry, you'll find your drawing again.
You lost my drawing.
Anyways, guys, I'm really, really sorry, but it's 20 to 1 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 20 to 11. We're going to go build shit for chickens.
You go build chicken shit.
By the way, I was joking about the manuals. I thought I'd clarify that one.
It's just our excuse, though. It's just our excuse.
Yep.
It's like when someone goes, "Why the fuck are you doing that?" We're like, "Well, it said it here on this page." Like if you stick that electrode, it will do stuff. We didn't know lightning was going to be created. I didn't know. Didn't say that.
It in the manual that would blow me up. Okay, guys. This was an awesome conversation, and I did record it this time, so I'm quite glad that I did. And we have to get together for more of these, more like this.
Oh, yes.
I think like once a week, we should definitely make it like a once a week thing where we have this, where everyone can just hang out and just talk whatever we're going to talk about.
Yes, please.
We are literally about to, we're going to go finish off the chicken farm part, and then we're putting some seeds in the greenhouse, and then we're going to start filming some shit. So I'll have little bits of like video footage to show you where we live.
You're going to film your doo-doo.
He's going to film his
Yeah. Oh, there'll be
Listen, Storm, don't actually say those shit, because that's the kind of shit
there'll be some shit and stuff. There'll be,
You know, I want to tell you, Ben, it's so funny because I just was talking to my son about you just last night. I said, I so want to hook you, because he's doing some things with soil and stuff right now. And it's so funny because I was like, and I haven't seen her talk with you in so long. And I was like, I got to hook you up with this guy, Ben, because he knows what he's doing with the soil.
What? Get him to like cross-reference nutrition while he's doing his soil stuff.
Well, that's what he see. That's why I'm not going to talk about this with everybody else, but he is, and he's getting challenges with some of the plants he's growing. So I was like, you need to talk to this guy. That's all I know. And I was just saying it last night. So I'm sorry to interrupt with that.
Ben is going to be putting it together. Ben and Jesse are going to be putting it together. And when are we going to get Ben and Jesse and Carl on to do that conversation?
No, I just got hold of Carl today, so I think he's going to come over tomorrow. So he may be here tomorrow. We're all going to go visit Joe, so we're going to go muck around.
Okay. Well, let me know, and we'll see if we can't put aside like even just an hour to record some stuff.
Carl's here till like April, so
yeah,
it's
I don't know.
But it's already the 22nd of March, dude.
Was one for
yeah. Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, we got to press some bricks and da-da-da-da-da. So I want to get some of that stuff done so that we can, and get a camera so that we can actually do it through the computer properly.
Yes, this would be lovely. Yes. Okay, so there will be more on this topic, most certainly. Okay, guys, I love you all, and I will talk to you in my morning time. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Later.
Later.
One small step for